The second incident I want to bring up, there's a lot of things happened when I was there, but uh, these are just a couple of things I wanted to mention. One was the incident at C2, and then again, our battery almost got overrun. In May of 1969, we were located in a place called Hai Lang, which is south of Quang Tri, south of Red Devil, which is in Quang Tri, and north of LZ Nancy. Um, it was set up that way so any maneuver element could move under an artillery umbrella all the way down from Hai Lang to LZ Nancy. We also provided general support, but anyway, Hai Lang was about 100 meters across. It was on sand and had a low berm, and they had 55-gallon drums with water or something in them to revet, put in revetments around the howitzers. But the berm was low, and they were going to improve it and so forth, but hadn't gotten to it yet. A man could stand outside of the battery and fire all the way across the battery in some places and hit anything in between. It was chest high on me. I'm 5'10", so it gives you kind of gives you a perspective. The outside of the berm had barbed wire, and they had some bunkers started and so forth. We had the battery and all support elements in there. It's kind of packed in. Well, it wasn't packed in, but it was close, real close. And we generally had a infantry platoon in with us, or a tank platoon in with us, and then some service unit. In this case, we had the CBs in with us that night, a platoon of CB, platoon size element. They had some bulldozers and things. They were working on Highway 1, which ran from, gosh, I guess the DMZ to Da Nang, down in there. And we had 155 self-propelled howitzers. That was our weapon. The it was a sapper attack. They were VC, and the sappers come through barbed wire and so forth, and they have satchel charges, little packs with, not little, they're pretty good size. They have done TNT and fuses and so forth. They have some other explosives too, but that's the primary thing is to get inside and to blow up an artillery unit like that, is to get on the howitzers and in the ammo dump and really do damage. Had they been able to get in the perimeter, it'd have finished us off. But anyway, I was sitting in my exec post, which was a bunker. It was a bunker. It's about the size of a large clothes closet. It was an improved foxhole is what it was, and you could see out to the front left, had a little screen there. And it had been raining, so it was every time the howitzers went off, the ground shook more than they normally did. And it was late. It was, I would say, it's about 10 o'clock. We had not cleared the H&Is, which is harassing interdiction fire. And you could shoot them. You have all night shoot them. In fact, they like to shoot some like as late as, say, 4 in the morning, something like that. So we're waiting for them to clear. And I was writing a letter, and I remember looking up, and I saw a 60-millimeter mortar hit in the sand right in front of me. It was like 2 feet away from me, and I could see the yellow explosion and all that. And I knew it. This all happened in seconds too. As soon as they started, as that hit, we had 2 more impacts to the top right of the bunker. They were RPGs, rocket-propelled grenades. And I mean, it happened just like, it was like bang, 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 bang. And then they opened up with several crew-served automatic weapons. They had a 50 caliber, a light, or a Russian version. Behind us, they shot the sandbags away from the bunker, but they got off on something else. They would have penetrated the bunker. And they shot everything. We had some tents, GP 100s, large, GP large, the large tent. We had some little bitty buildings, these little 8-man buildings. They weren't used for personnel, they were used for the supply sergeant and CP, just about 4 of them, mess hall. So we had about, maybe had 4 to 6 of them, something like that. And a movie screen. My former radio operator from when I was an FO. One of my operators said there I was trying to get a good seat, and they shot the movie screen in half. They did. It was just like in a cartoon. But in the first 5 or 10 minutes, the exchange of the fire was so great that you couldn't move without getting shot. You just could not move out of shelter, or you could not. You couldn't move. The tanks fired it was shot. The tanks have canister. Hit one of them, blew one of the sappers to pieces. In fact, it hit a couple of them. They almost came through to my front, and we had a kid named Santucci with a 50 caliber machine gun, and he stopped them right as they came over the height of that berm, and they couldn't get through. And he managed to hold long enough till everybody could. We'd fire defensive fires, and we were firing the automatic weapons and so forth. And but it was bad. We had several people wounded, slightly, one man killed, a latrine blown away. We had everything. Everything was full of bullet holes. I think the reason that they attack us when they did is they just saw that the berm was low, and they might be able to get in and do damage in the battery. Really hurt us, and they could have. We had three attacks, counting that one there. That we had Seabees in with us, and they asked what they could do to help us out. And the next day, we had them bulldoze up the berm much higher, over the height of my head, and put in some tank placements where the tanks could be endefilated with just the tube would stick out. And they bulldozed dirt up against the howitzer, so you had the 55-gallon drums, and you had the dirt built up around the howitzer, so they were much, much stronger after that. We put in more wire and put double-layer sandbags around the exec post, which instead of one layer of sandbags, which I almost shot through. But the Seabees helped us out the next day. We just did stop them. We had 2 more attacks that didn't work. Everybody was, after that first attack, everybody was really, really, it can happen to us. They realized that it drove it home. I'm trying to think. I think the whole thing lasted about maybe 15 minutes, 10 minutes, very intense. Probably another 15, not so intense. Then we fired, probably 20 minutes after that, fired high angle. We fired something called core fam, which is the base plate out of the 155 millimeter comes out, and a little anti-personnel weapons drop out, bounce up, and little grenades come out, and so we did that. The next 2 they didn't get as far, and then there was a third attempt where we found the wire cut to the west side of the perimeter, where they'd cut and hook it back so they could crawl through and take the wire, separate the wire, get to the top of the berm, and then the inside. So anyway, that was the ground attack we had.